Welcome back to the Chris and Retro podcast. Part 2 of Chris's interview with Roger O'Brien starts now.
You and I met 4 years ago. So
Rio Tomatlin,
a restaurant here in Canandaigua, New York. And I had no idea all this background when we met. I just didn't know. I knew you're a pretty important person, and the restaurant recognized you as a pretty important person and powerful individual. That's for sure. You had come in I had just gone out of my season of craziness, and I was post incarceration, and I was rebuilding my life and trying to remember what it was like when I used to work with Johnson & Johnson and Becton Dickinson. I was respected, and I'm in a situation where what am I going to do to get those skills back with all this baggage I've created? And this is the side of you to me that was super important for my life, but it did start in that restaurant. You were there for a birthday party. We had messed up your reservation. we had to put you in another area of the restaurant, and we were really trying to accommodate this situation as best as possible. And you guys were really gracious, and it was a nice time. But it was the very first time I met you and your wife. And then you'd come in for lunch, and we'd have small conversations, and I shared a little bit of my story. You were talking more about who you were, and I found you guys to be wonderful human beings. But at the same time, not only are you excellent in your business element, but you allow people to be who they are, where they are, and you have conversations with them to help them understand new things about themselves. And I think that from a professional standpoint, that's probably what makes you very effective for me as a person. And when you interact with individuals, it's tremendously effective.
Going back to your earlier comment in that on that topic of, I guess I've learned over the years that you might have your own vision as a consultant or as a manager in an organization of how things can be and should be. But you have to hold yourself back for a moment and take a look at what's working, because usually not everything can be trashed, right? Some things, people, processes are working, and you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwaters. It takes more time to recreate from zero. And I guess I've learned over time to just stop and really analyze what's going well, what's not going well, where can things be improved, what are the root causes of dysfunction, whether it's among people or processes, and then start there, and then create a vision and a set of initiatives for change to achieve a certain outcome. You got to sell those initiatives on the people you're asking to carry them out.
For sure.
That, if you're a manager, would be your staff. If you're a consultant, it's a little harder because you're not in, your client can flick you away if they don't like your advice. So selling the rationale for your recommendations is a really important task in consulting. And if there's any lesson I've learned strongly over the years, it's certainly been that one as a consultant.
The thing is, though, I think that's a reselling effort all the way through it too, because your client isn't always staying consistent with what they've told you about up front either.
No, I mean, they never tell you everything. Either because they don't want to turn you off to the assignment, or because they don't realize how dysfunctional it is.
Right.
And it's on you to ask the questions and then turn your powers of observation on how the organization works together to figure it out. Right. Chris, on our prior topic of O'Brien Associates, the only other thing I'd mention is that in the past years, in addition to the things that I've mentioned, we did for organizations, planning, operational improvement, B2B, sales coaching. It's evolved to spend probably 30% of our time now on one-on-one coaching of senior people, from a business owner or CEO all the way down to 3 levels. And my wife, Kimberly, joined the firm 3 years ago after having received some internationally recognized certifications in coaching, and now she's very involved in that as well. So the last thing I'd mention that O'Brien Associates does, actually it's me, is interim general management. So about every 2 years, I'll get a call from someone associated with a small to mid-sized company, could be an attorney, could be the owner, could be a member of the board of directors if there's one of those, that they need a new interim CEO or president. They lost their person or they kicked their person out for whatever reason, but they can't be rudderless until they figure things out. So I have done that probably 10 or 12 times in the past 25 years, usually for a 3 to 6 month period, and then I hire my full-time replacement to come in behind me.
Right.
So it is a consulting assignment, but I love it for a bunch of reasons. Number one, you can really make a difference because you're the top person. Number two, it gets tedious advising and never being able to implement or execute.
I'm sure it does.
And in these interim assignments, it's on me to execute with the team. So I miss that when I'm not doing that, and I very much enjoyed that over the years.
Yeah, you guys got quite a team there. I've had experience with Kim as well, and she's excellent. So her style is different, and the areas of specialty are different. But I would say that your heart is both equal in terms of where your approach, and in terms of you're looking at the individual involved and what you can do. And I do think that with that you have a I don't know if this is the right way to phrase it, but a positive critical nature, and that you are evaluating because the person's come to you to improve, and you're helping them understand things that they may not see. And it really comes down to the individual's willingness to accept that information as truth. And they don't always have to, but I've seen both of you at work. You in particular, I worked with in a professional setting as well. So this is, we met through a personal situation. As I started to get my life back, I was in an executive role for a nonprofit, a behavioral health organization, and you were consulting with them at the time, and I think still are probably, but that was a very complex situation from a personalities perspective. Funding. It's constantly in a state of change because of how the nonprofit world works, and that their particular area of specialty has a lot of change, from a public policy perspective as well. So I found that one interesting to see how, because I think when you get in, my bias is that when you get in a corporation, even as nuts as corporations can be, there's at least some direction that you're following. I've noticed in the nonprofit environment, it's very difficult to stay focused, and I find that was a challenge for having an outside consultant come in and understand what was going on. I felt like you did an excellent job there. As time's gone on, though, I mean, we've talked about your background, and I wanted to make sure the audience knew exactly who you were, because it's one thing for me to say, Roger, my friend's a CEO, or Roger, my friend's got a consulting business. You're a unique human being, and from all the people I've met, and in the way that you approach things and the authenticity in which you approach things. So how, I guess over the years, how have you evolved? I mean, you early on talked about how, you're a poor student, then nuclear engineer, you initially had one view on your career, and then all of a sudden you started getting aggressive about, your nature in your career. How have you evolved?
It's simply been, from a professional perspective, a wide variety of work assignments in a wide variety of different organizations, having different cultures, size, industry focus. And it's been personal relationships. You learn from people. You have successful relationships and less successful relationships. And, I think some level of introspection is important after every interaction. Otherwise, you don't learn. You can't run from mistake to mistake to mistake, or you will repeat. You have to sit down and say, hey, that work assignment or that relationship didn't work out as well as I'd hoped. What might I have done differently? Or was this just not in the cards because the match was not right? Again, whether it's professional work or just relationships. One, maybe I can share a tip for our audience. I don't know, Chris, whether you I can't recall if you and I have talked about this, but there's an author out there, Don Miguel Ruiz, who has a book called The Four Agreements.
Okay.
And I
You
think it's
have
been
brought that up
out.
to me before.
Yeah, right. I thought we might have. The audience may have heard of it, maybe not. Please Google it. It's simply called The Four Agreements by Ruiz. I read that thing probably 15 years ago, and it really helped me on self-management. And here are the four agreements. Always be impeccable with your word. This isn't rocket science, by the way. But it means so much when you read the book. Be impeccable with your word. That means don't say anything you don't mean.
Right.
Don't take things personally. The example there is, and this happened to me just the other day. I had been talking with a prospective client for some months about initiating work with them. And it started out as a verbal over the phone and then became email correspondence. And so I said, would you like a proposal from me? Yeah, I would. Sent him a proposal, didn't hear anything for 2 weeks. Now, what would most people think? Well, they hate me. They didn't like me. They didn't like the proposal.
They might.
I mean, that actually, you don't have to be insecure to arrive at those conclusions. It's
right.
just right.
Yep.
And so I said to myself, "Oh, right. I'm directing it to me. I'm saying, oh, well, you screwed up. You didn't write the right proposal. It's too expensive. He was playing you, something like that." You reach all these conclusions because you have nothing else to go on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of wrote him off in my mind. After 2 weeks, I suddenly get an email from him one morning. Hey, Roger, we went to Europe for 2 weeks and I kind of unplugged from the grid, but I see your proposal and I love it. I mean, how many of us have not had an experience like that where we prejudge and we beat ourselves up when in fact we don't have all the facts? Yeah. So that's the number 2 agreement. Don't take things personally. Number 3, don't make assumptions. So the classic there is judging a book by its cover, right? You're maybe if you're a professional and you're hiring people and an applicant comes in for whatever job, could be high level, lower level, and they look like hell, puffy eyes, and you're thinking to yourself, oh my God. And maybe their English isn't all that good. Maybe they're a foreign worker. But it turns out they've got 160 IQ and are the best software developer you'll ever see in your life. Mm-hmm. You can't profile. We all profile, and profiling, of course, has been a big national topic for several years now. Mm-hmm. It's human nature to profile because we try to judge people based on our prior experiences. You got to resist that because that employee applicant could be a jewel in the rough. You just have to give it a little more time to evidence itself.
I've seen it go the other way too, where we make assumptions about somebody's performance being excellent and they turn out to be a dud.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Those are big ones, especially in sales, because everybody shows up with the sales look and they can fudge a lot of things, and all of a sudden they're throwing out zeros for 12 months.
The other problem with sales recruiting, Chris, as you know, is salespeople have the gift of gab. 100%. And they can talk their way into almost any job you can imagine. So you have to dig down a little further on that.
They have the sales words, and they only have to sell for maybe 5 meetings. The issue is what they had to do for the next 12 months.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
So,
and I actually coach several clients on effective hiring processes for salespeople to really discern whether they're producers or just floaters.
A lot of that.
So that's the third of the 4 agreements. I just finished this real quick. Don't make assumptions, right? Mm-hmm. And the last one is obvious. Always do your best. And where this fits in is we've all had, generally in work assignments, but I think it could relate to personal as well, chores around the house, whatever it is. But we've at times been overloaded, right? Five, we've got 10 things to do and only time to get 5 things done. And sometimes we shortcut.
Mm-hmm.
We've all done that. We have shortcut vacuuming the house, or we have shortcut doing a thorough analysis of a financial statement, or whatever it is. We've all found ourselves justifying in our own minds that this is okay. I'm going to do the 90% job or the 80% job, not the 100% job. And 2 things happen there. Number one, that may be recognized and reflect on your personal brand that the outcome wasn't quite as good. And number two, I think deep down, we recognize that we cheaped out on it, didn't spend enough time on it, didn't give it enough thought, and we think less of ourselves as a result. And that can be a cancer in your own psyche over time.
Yeah,
so I think that's one reason that this 4th agreement, always do your best, is very important. So again, here are the 4 agreements. Be impeccable with your word. Don't take things personally. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best. So I would encourage anybody who isn't familiar with the book and its principles. It's a short read. The print is that big. You can get through it in an hour or less. Go online and look that book up. The author's name is Ruiz, R-U-I.
I'll put the link in the description of this show too, so people can just, if they go under description, you'll be able to just click the link and take a look at it. Yeah, that's a good tip. It does lead to it. I'd like to shift gears a little bit. I think this is an appropriate time to do that based on the time we have left. What you just outlined really has a lot to do with how you approach things. I don't think this book necessarily had to be the reason, be the driving factor. I think how you've lived your life. But, one things that I've noticed about you with myself and with others is you create an environment of respect. You disarm people, in a way that, I can come in with a perception of, all the things that you've accomplished and the respect, obviously, you deserve for that. But at the same time, you are conversational, and you make it so that I can engage with you and understand how you know what you know and how I can be better at what I do. One of the things that you've told me that you strive for is to help people become the best version of themselves, or be their best self. And I hear that cliche an awful lot in the world, but you actually do it in a way that really does produce a result. It's not just some headline. And I'm just curious, what does that even mean to you and your approach?
Yeah. Answering that question, Chris, I might turn to some of the coaching questions that I give clients at all levels. Could be a business owner, could be an aspiring manager. So the best version of yourself can most easily come from you being in the right situation for you. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? In the professional world, it would be the right work environment and culture, the right job, drawing on your skills and interests. In the personal world, it obviously would be, chemistry, values, and other things that are important for you to resonate with another person, whether it be a significant other, partner, spouse, whoever. Because all of my coaching is really aimed at professional work, helping people be the best version of themselves in their jobs. I always like to ask them, forget what they're doing today and what they may have done for 30 years, because I've got people who've been out there in the workforce for quite a while and just would like to think differently. I like asking them, what are your values and where are your strongest interests professionally? Like the kind of work you would do, sales, design, manufacturing, human resources, whatever it is. And then I ask them to step away from that thought after they've given some answers and say, what do you do as easy as breathing? Everybody has a unique gift. What do you do so easily that has value in the workplace that most others would take a long time to get to? And as you might guess, in sales, since we've talked about the sales function, the best salesperson in the world would answer the question this way. I love meeting new people, creating new relationships, and helping them achieve their goals. That's what he or she does as easy as breathing. And guess what? They will be the best salesperson in the world. Another person, let's go back to engineering, for example, software development or electronic circuit design. If I ask that person, what do you do as easy as breathing? You know what they're going to say? They're going to say cracking the code, figuring out the problem, solving the puzzle. But there are versions of those answers for any profession you can think of. Right. And most people, because we're inside ourselves, and it's often very hard to view oneself while you're in the body and in the life. It often takes an objective professional to help you think through these things. You sometimes take for granted things that you do amazingly well, and right. that's a problem. I'll give you an example. As you might guess, in 25 years of consulting, I've written up and proposed a lot of consulting agreements with a lot of clients, and I don't get them all. Nobody does. But I remember one particular client. I was proposing, this is what it was many years ago. I was proposing to lead her team through a strategic planning process. It was a mid-sized company, actually in the Rochester area. And they had some prior strategic plans, business plans, going out 3 to 5 years, but it was old and not relevant. And nobody ever bought into it anyway. Mm-hmm. So I proposed a process, which, it's about 30% of my work now, for leading them through the conceptual decisions around initiatives to achieve certain business goals, resources required, action plans, strategies, that type of thing. And she, at the time, was talking with 3 different organizations, the other 2 being larger than my own consulting organization. But somehow I got the assignment. And so she called me in to tell me that and to finalize the agreement. And I said, in this case, I said, Jennifer, you had a lot of alternatives. I don't want to act like I'm not deserving of this, because I know I'll do a great job for you and your team. But, can you tell me why you decided on me? Now, honestly, I thought she decided on me and to provide this strategic planning assistance because of the process I had outlined, which I knew would be very easy for them to digest. It's a pretty unique process, and it involves a lot of listening and gauging the culture of the organization. So I thought that was it, because I've often heard that. And I said, why did you pick me? She said, because you know how organizations work. You've done every job function in many companies: finance, engineering, sales, people development, operations. And I never really thought about my well-roundedness in my business career as being that relevant for this particular value proposition to win this business. So I guess my advice to the audience, and this isn't just if you're going to be a consultant, but in any proposal you make to anyone for anything, um, when you win business or you win an agreement from your boss in an organization on a policy that you recommended, whatever it is, find out why. Because what you think is the reason you won may not be it. Now, I know a lot of salespeople, for example, always ask when they don't get business, why did you choose the other guy? Gee, we worked hard. I thought we were a good fit. And they'll usually get some honest feedback. People ask when they don't get things. They don't ask why they got things.
I think that,
and I think that's such an important piece of input for them for their ongoing success. So from then on, I started emphasizing my well-roundedness and my understanding of every aspect of a business's operation when I was pitching strategic planning, because I realized that was important to the client.
Right. I think that that's something that obviously can help you, prepare better for the next customer, a little more confidence. I was given some advice from a sales director at Johnson & Johnson at one point. His name was Brian Bonnicum. It was great advice. Actually, it was early on in my career. And he had said, your most important call, and we were in capital sales at the time, your most important sales calls is the first call you make after you lose the business. Now, the model of that business was that if you lose, you're gone 3 to 5 years, because of the way the agreements are set up. And
the cycles, yes.
And you may have a small territory where you've got to close, let's say, 10 instruments in a year. And now one of your, few hospitals in your small territory is now gone for 3 to 5 years.
Right.
However, they'll be gone for 10 to 15 years if you're not handling yourself in such a professional way on the way out, helping them, especially if it's a customer you just lost, the potential, helping them with the transition, your professionalism, your grace in handling that, because people in that environment, and I'm still selling in that environment, in the lab environment, they're there for a while. And, it's our obligation to treat them as humans on that side of it as well. I appreciate that advice. I mean, it's something that's held through my career. We're getting towards the end of the show here, and I want to make sure that, I get a sense of, for the audience, where are you headed next? What's new for you? What's next in your stage? You kind of still doing what you're doing? Because you said you're still inquisitive.
I would love to thrill the audience with something really crazy, like I'm going to become a paratrooper or something weird like that.
You did say you skydive.
But I really enjoy my work as a consultant. I love helping organizations and people be the best they can be. You can't be successful in every case, and it has to meet their goals, not the goals I would have for them. And it's just very self-actualizing to me. So they're going to have to pry my cold, dead hand off the doorknob to get me out of this business. I'm very happy doing it, and I'm blessed to be able to do it with my wife.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that, because you're excellent at what you do. I personally recommend you, obviously, for a lot of reasons, but I've seen you both professionally and personally in terms of help. There's a lot of areas where the concepts that you use have helped me navigate some decisions that I've had to make, and some of those were no-go decisions. A little secret sauce in my growth as a human being. I was able to get my career back, and actually in a position now that was every bit what I'd ever had before, and a lot of that had to do with you helping me navigate that next phase of recovery for me. When I'd been in a professional position, understanding who I was, what I was looking for, helping with those decisions I was making, even toying with some of the entrepreneurial ideas I'd had. I feel like you do a really good job with people to help us understand what is truth, what do we actually desire. I think that in some respects in those stages we can be positionally focused rather than what do we want to do focused. We may want to be a director or a owner or whatever, and that's not really where we should go with it. It's like, what are we trying to accomplish? Who are you and what do you want to be? And I feel like you directed me very well there, personally and professionally, and for that I'm forever grateful. You are a significant impact in my life, and that I wanted to make sure that people knew that when we're working with you, you're not just a average everyday consultant. You're somebody that knows what you're doing. You will change people's lives. Your wife is the same way too. So I appreciate you both.
Well, that's very nice to hear, Chris. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks, Roger, for coming on the show. Is there anything?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to leave the audience with? Make sure they come out to robrienassociates.com.
The four agreements. Be true to yourself.
You got it. And I'll put that link in the description. Thanks again for tuning in. Please make sure you like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that. We need to make sure you keep coming back to the YouTube channel and see some more great content. Appreciate this episode, and that'll be something I hope you guys refer to for years to come. Until next time, talk to you soon.